you seen the movie Social Dilemma?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like and I'm not even a teenager. I couldn't imagine being a teenager right now with what we have in the world. But goodness gracious, how are you? Oh, that brings a completely different question because you're Nico's just a couple years older than my son. How are you managing? Now, right now, my kid has an iPad, but if he goes to an internet site, he has to bring it to me, and I have to approve literally every single site he goes to, which is exhausting and makes me want to take away that thing. But at the same point, I'm like, no, I don't. Like, he wants to play these video games that he has access to the world. And my previous life, I've done some. I was a criminal investigator and counterintelligence guy for a long time, so I know that kids on those games are not always kids on those games. There are other people that are trying to interact. So, what have you been kind of looking at in your life and implementing? Or like showing, because obviously we're showing them that these are useful tools. What are you doing to kind of present that to Nico as you're growing him and raising him into being a young man?
Yeah. So one thing is we're probably not we probably don't provide as much technology to him as he would like, and like a lot of his friends get. Again, I don't know. Yeah, I hear both sides. Like, some people say we're just hurting him because that's the future, and I'm kind of like, I just don't care because it is what it is. Like, he doesn't have video games. He's never had video games before, so like he's played video games when he goes to his friends. And it's probably a little bit weird. Like, there's probably not too many kids his age that don't have video game consoles or whatever. But we've just never had them. Yeah, we just never had him in the house, and so he doesn't play video games unless he's, if he's at a friend's house or whatever. That's one thing. And if he is playing like any kind of video games or whatever, it's like he's got like on the school computer, which is like he's building his own game type thing, and then he gets to play it. But it's not like Call of Duty on the Xbox type video games. Yeah. And then he does have a tablet that has access to the internet. I've always made it very clear to him that we're going to kind of look at everything he's looking at, and he needs to really, guard himself and, pay attention to what he's clicking on and what he's looking at, and then following up on it, and it's like, I'll walk in his room and he's watching YouTube or something. I'll have to ask him what he's watching and ask to look at it. And show him, look at what he's been searching on there and looked at, so he knows that we're involved and what's going on. And so, at least so far, he's 11, so it starts to be a little bit of a concern, but he's been pretty good about it. Yeah. But like the same thing, like a lot of his friends at school have cell phones. To me, it's just kind of crazy. And so he doesn't have a cell phone. I don't know at what point he'll get one, but it'll probably be substantially older, by the time he gets one. And it's probably something that he's gonna have to buy himself if he really wants one and pay for. And he does have we've got a watch for him, which is like a smart watch. That we can call him and text him and stuff, but it's only people that we enter into his contacts that he can communicate with. And so, again, it's just similar. Like, I have a background in law enforcement, so I've seen some of the true evil that's out there, and we may be a little bit, some people may consider us a little bit over the top with some of that stuff, but it's something that we take important.
So. What smartwatch is that? I'm curious.
Oh, I think it's called a Gizmo. It's through Verizon. So I've got my business phone accounts through Verizon, and it's pretty affordable. Like, I want to say it was like $100, and it's like $5 or $10 a month. And so it's perfect because it gives us the benefit of the cell phone is, and like, if I go to pick them up from after school, I can call him and he can answer right on the watch and talk to me. Or if he needs me, he can call me or text me on it. But again, it doesn't allow anybody any outside communication unless we are the ones that enter it into that app. So it's been very helpful. So
I may have to look into that one. Yeah, I you being prior law enforcement, you can kind of get some of this. I was a federal agent for quite a while. Doing a bunch of different things. And we used to do like the ICAC cases, the internet crimes against children type stuff. Yeah. And the amount of people that would go after, and 9-year-old boy, 11-year-old boy, it doesn't matter. The 12-year-old girl. Like my wife and I arrested this one guy. She did the same job. And we arrested this one guy that, he was like, I don't know, 63, 65, something like that. Trying to get with a 14-year-old girl. interacting with one of our agents, and then had the whole conversation, and we go and arrest him on the scene. I mean, he's got a gun on his person as he's going to go after this 14-year-old girl to try to sleep with her. And I was like, this is one of the reasons that I don't think you're going too far with not giving access, like, because you don't know. Like, one of the things that my son's got an iPad, and he was like, I want to play this Marvel Universe game. So I looked it up, and I was like, no, it's got interactive chat with anybody that's on the game, and I'm not. Like I told him, I said, look, I'm not just giving you access to the game. I'm giving anybody who has access to that game access to you. And there's a difference there. And I'm not opening the world up to my son. I'm trying to show my son what goes on in the world, but I'm not trying to show the world my son. So, and he was like, oh, okay, that makes, and how much it does make sense to a 9-year-old boy, I don't know. But my goal is that it does actually make sense. And it's just one of those, I don't know. It's scary, right? Because I didn't even have my real name out in Facebook or out in the ether until I needed to for business stuff, and it's uncomfortable. I don't really like it much, and I don't like to expose my kids to all of that. And I'd much rather be considered one of those weird dads that goes too far than one of those dads that just allows their kid allows anybody access to their kid. So it's yeah. So for those of you who are listening who don't think like we do, we've seen a lot. All right, there's some terrible, terrible people out there that are doing terrible things. And if anybody ever has questions, reach out and I'll chat with you about some of the stuff. So,
and it almost always, like you said, it almost always starts with digital communicate. Every instant that I'd seen it was started with some kind of digital communication, so either text message or online chats or whatever. And so it's very serious.
Yeah, unless it was within the family, like that one particular guy that I talked about, that 60-something-year-old guy. When we went and did the search of his house, the sheriff's department showed up, and we were chatting with them about what was going on, and they were like, "Dude, we've got a case on this house from years ago where he was doing something with his granddaughter, and the whole family had shamed the granddaughter into saying that this was nonsense, and completely opened up the world to grandpa. Now, grandpa was in the clear because she denied everything. The little girl just was like, no, I was lying about the whole thing. And now for years now, grandpa's been able to, have access. And it's like, these are the type of people that we have to worry about out there, right? I mean, this mostly we talk about, obviously dad and entrepreneur stuff, but this is very much a dad thing, and like something that dads should be very aware of what's going on in the world to be able to go out there and protect our kids from. Part of our jobs as dads is to make sure that we're protecting our kids. So that's why I still, because I tend to wonder if I overthink it with access to phones and all of that type of stuff. But I have a conversation with somebody like you, and I'm like, I'm not overthinking it. I'm good. I'm doing the right thing.
So. And it's our job, again, like you said, something I've told Brenda before is like, you truly don't understand the type of evil that's out there. And I do. And so therefore, like, I'm going to do, we can't and so it's interesting for me because Nico's at that age where he's 11 now. And so like, I have to be careful because I can swing too far where I'm too overprotective. And so like, I'm trying to be better about like, if he wants to go ride his bike to his buddy's house that also, goes to church with us, and like, we know their family. And I'm trying to be better about giving that freedom where you can get out and cause it's going to be important for him, especially as a young man growing up, that he's got some freedom and that he can take care of himself and stuff like that. But at the same time, like, you got to balance it with not having whoever on the internet get access to them. And it scares me a lot more with Aspen, right? It being a little girl. And so it's going to be even, a whole level of extra tough with her. And so, but definitely important.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's, with my little girl now, 8 months old, almost 9 months old in 5 days, I'm thinking to myself, golly, like, I don't even know. It's one thing for a little boy, but it's a completely different world with a little girl, and it's a interesting world that we live in. But anyways,
you're doing the homeschooling, which is, I think, is great.
Yeah,
I don't think we'd be a good fit for homeschooling. We did have the opportunity to put Nico into a really good private Christian school a couple years ago, and like, one of the things that like super impressed me about them was just like their staff and how important they take this kind of stuff, and like they're monitored. They all have laptops, but it's all monitored, and extra security, and then even like security as far as the school security, and they've got a retired federal agent who's in charge of the security for the school. And so I just think, especially with kids, it's important that we give them the freedom to learn, but we're also protect them as much as we can.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I always tell people if my kids were in private school before I started homeschool. This year is the first year we did the homeschool thing, and it's always been a good, solid private Christian school. And if I could take the one that we were at in Northern Virginia and move it down here, I wouldn't be homeschooling because I loved that school. Like just like you were saying, the people that were involved in there, the curriculum they had, the involvement they had with the kids, and it was I absolutely loved it. But yeah, it's a different environment here, and I just wanted to be able to bring my kids, like you said, to Vermont with me. And like when they're in a private school, it's like, well, eventually you're gonna have to report me to the county for not having my kid at school if I keep yanking them out of class. So I'm trying to figure out how to better balance that.